Hi there, it's Azir Fractal here, and today I want to talk to you about the lessons that I learned today from the Property Investors Virtual Summit, which you can go and check out still by going to propertygedi.com, which you can see below. So today we had four amazing speakers. This is day 2 of the 3-day summit that is being held for free online. When you go to that address, you can see there. And today we had a mortgage expert on the call. We had a rent-to-rent expert on the call. We had a deal sourcer on the call, and we also had an expert virtual VA expert. So the lessons I learned were quite mind-blowing. They really helped to change my perspective on a lot of things as well. So the first thing was with the mortgage expert. So there's a guy, brilliant guy called David Aggis from 360 Mortgages here in Plymouth in the UK, and he was saying that a couple of things to watch out for. He spoke about so many things and he went in depth on so many things. But one of the things that stood out to me personally was about this mortgage holiday. Everyone's banging on about taking this 90-day mortgage holiday, and they feel like it's a good thing and they can be away. And he was highlighting reasons as to why this is like a poison chalice, actually. And he was actually making a strong argument that if you can avoid taking the holiday, then you probably should. If you have to take it, then fine. If you can avoid taking it, then you probably should, because of the implications later down the line with regards to being able to borrow again down the line, of the lender criterias and the underwritings and all stuff like that. He does a much better job of explaining it than I am right now, so it's definitely worth you going and checking out at propertygedi.com. Now, the second thing that he kind of I picked up from him was about your credit rating. It's so important to make sure that you have a squeaky clean credit rating. He showed some examples of how people have assumed that they've had a relatively decent credit rating, and then when they went to apply for something, it just fell through, and that he was able to track and show as much as like a £38 payment to something like either Virgin Media or Sky, one of the two, or the change between Virgin Media and Sky. And that small thing was actually affecting them getting credit. And the rate that they ended up going on as an investor ended up costing them an extra £2,000 essentially, simply because of a £38 charge. So it's really important to understand your credit rating, and he gave some insights into that. He's also talking about organizing your portfolio, the time right now of how you can organize your portfolio so you can at a glance have a look and see what's performing, what's underperforming, what you can get away with. And he gave some tools for free to actually use in your business to actually help you do that. So I thought that was really generous of him and really nice. Then the next person that we had was Kevin McDonald. This guy is amazing. He's such a ball of energy, really enthusiastic. You can see he's got a real passion for what he does, and that is rent to rent. And it was really interesting to hear his refreshing perspective. A lot of people in the rent to rent industry tend to follow one or two people and repeat the same kind of thing. So if you're the leader in that kind of thing, or seen as leader, that's one thing. And a lot of people kind of are saying a similar kind of thing. It was very interesting to hear a totally different perspective, a fresh pair of ears. He even made some stuff that was a bit controversial to some of the other speakers in there, which has put a bit of a smile to my face, even controversial to myself. Which is, again, it's interesting to see someone else's perspective and then listen. So don't just bulk and tell them they're wrong and why. Just try and find out why. Listen to the other person's perspective. One of the things he highlighted was about collecting rent. You know, a lot of people think that you should collect rent on the 1st of every month, and it should all be automatic. And there's reasons for that, and a part of me still does feel that way. But I think the problem with that is that it only really fits a certain type of tenant demographic. If you don't have that certain type of tenant demographic, or you're trying to scale your business, then it's really hard for you to be able to do that. So he was advocating that actually you can collect your rent on a weekly basis, and he was, given a lot of insight into that. So that was quite an interesting perspective. The other one that he was talking about. The question is, at a time like this, how do you find good tenants? Where do you find good tenants? Where are the platforms that you can go and find good tenants? And he was actually highlighting actually change your perspective again. It's not just necessarily about the platform that you use to find good tenants, but it's really about the advertising, the wording that you use, and the way that you go about talking to those people and vetting those people. So that was a unique insight as well. And another thing he was talking about is the whole concept of rent to rent as a whole. A lot of people want to get involved because they want to replace their salary, their income. And he was actually saying that really that's not really the goal. You want to think bigger than that. The whole purpose of that is that you want to be able to use the cash flow to then buy you an asset that will then give you the money to then leave your job. And when you think about it, this really speaks to the principle that Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, was saying. It's really about God, I've forgotten the thing. I know he was talking about assets and liabilities, but I think it was actually maybe from arguably The Richest Man in Babylon, one of the two books, where they're basically talking about you have your money, and that's like the soldier. Then you have you use it to get an asset, which is like the parent, and then the child. So it's parent, child, and then I think soldier were the three things. And it's really, you want your soldier to go and do the work, so that it then gets you like a child, and then the child gets a parent, and then you can spend the sort of money. Basically, the whole point is, don't just get your asset and then use that asset to then spend the cash flow of the asset to make you money, because when that runs out, then you're screwed. And things like this happen, like everything goes on hold. You realize that actually you've got no cash flow, your cash flow is dried up. Whereas if it was your cash flow of the cash flow of the cash flow, then you'd have some more money. So that was an interesting perspective. Buying versus actually leasing was another concept that he highlighted. And this is really to do with getting the properties. A lot of people will think, okay, I've got this property, it's unfurnished, I need to now go out and buy all this stuff. He was advocating, actually, why buy when you could actually lease? If you actually do your numbers, you can lease the furniture and put it in the property, then you have brand new stuff that looks really good. Because think about it, if you're doing rent to rent, you're taking a tired property that's struggling to rent out, and then you're going to have to then get good tenants. Good tenants don't really want to move into such a property because it needs to be modernized. Now, you can go around with a paintbrush and give it a paint, fix and clean, but if you still got that bulky, old, horrible furniture, no one really wants that. So what do? Get rid of it, go and buy another stuff that's very expensive. Whereas if you can lease it, then what you can do is you can lease it, you have a period of time when you don't actually have to pay any money, and then you fill the property real quickly. Then the income from the property, from the tenants, then pays down the lease. It's just a cost on the bottom line. So you have to do your numbers to see what was right for you. But it was just interesting to hear another perspective of how you could actually do something like rent to rent, and just a different perspective. So I really did like that. Next, we had Arsh Elahi, and if you don't know who he is, he's a big name in the game who writes for YPN, Your Property Network, stuff like that. It was really good to have him on, and what he did was give everybody that's registered for the event, which you can go to at propertyjedi.com, is actually given a step-by-step guide of his system of basically being able to generate a 5K income in a 90-day period, with just starting off with just £500. So it was very interesting to actually know that that's even possible. He's put together a system to do that. So and he said he's happy for people to actually have that. So if you want to grab yourself a copy and see what that's like, then head on over to propertyjedi.com. Certainly worth it. If you're starting out from scratch, that type of stuff, where you're looking to kind of scale, get a good side hustle on, as it were. And then the last, we had a brilliant guy called Nick Clark. Nick Clark's a property investment coach as well, but he was specifically looking at VAs and how you can use VAs to build his grow your business. His ethos was, he wants to be able to travel around the world. He wants to be free. He wants to have a lot more, be a lot more geographically independent, work from a laptop type of thing. So he built his property business with that in mind. And so he's got all these VAs doing all these different heavy lifting essentially for his business, that allows him to have a property business that generates very good cash flow, very good income for him. And he kind of outlined the process of how he kind of went about doing that. He gave away his tried and tested 3-step freedom formula that he's got. Gives you back way more time, makes you a lot more stress-free and a happier person. He also talked about the first person you should really hire when you're just first starting out, where to kind of hire them, the kind of things that you should do. And then he gave away a 10-step checklist, which is in the downloadable area when you go over to propertyjedi.com. So my name is Azir Factor. I'm the host of the 3-day summit. Tomorrow is we've got another load of amazing speakers. So if you haven't checked it out just yet, go over to propertyjedi.com, register for free, and get yourself some knowledge that'll help you on your property journey.